How can we show ourselves some love this Valentine's Day with something besides chocolate while still staying on our health and wellness journey? Hey, Bob,
Hey, Kimmy.
let's talk about it. This was your idea, this topic. So, what have you already planned to do where you're going to show yourself some love with something besides chocolate? And why did you pick chocolate besides it just being a catchy title?
Well, I think that for most people, when we think about Valentine's Day, even people who aren't that big into sweets, surely chocolate comes to mind. It's maybe because I'm a school teacher. I don't know, but I'm going to be around a whole lot of chocolate. And it is a common gift, the heart-shaped box that, husbands and wives give each other sometimes this time of the year. But um, I love chocolate. I do. I know you enjoy it. My husband enjoys it, but we could eat too much chocolate. I think there's ways to show ourselves love, things we can do to bring joy on Valentine's Day without just the chocolate. We can have chocolate, so that's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
But
plan to. I plan to have
yeah.
chocolate later. I'm going to have a Built Bar. It's got chocolate on it.
hmm We've been enjoying little dark chocolate squares at night. And of course, chocolate ice cream
Oh, of
with
course.
our Ninja Creamy. That's wonderful. I know that for me, one thing that screams love and enjoyment, whether it's Valentine's Day or another day, is spending time with people that you love. And I'm going to get to do that in a very big way this Valentine's Day. For one thing, I'm going to get to actually have lunch with you and your mom.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that. The three of us have never shared lunch together. We were at mom's funeral dinner together, but we've never gone out and had a meal together at a restaurant. And then we're going to go see Annie at H-Town Theater in Henrietta, where my uh, granddaughter, that's a freshman in high school, is going to be one of the orphans in the production. And I get to show all of that off to you and your mom and share that special moment with you guys. And then that night, I'm going to go back again and it'll be a date with my husband.
Yeah, you're going to see that play a few times.
Yeah, our school's even going on Thursday because they're having a performance at noon and inviting other school districts to come because their students are coming to watch it. And I was asked today, am I okay with doing that in lieu of a party? And I was like, well, for one thing, just so you know, it does last a little over 2 hours. And I think my little kindergartners would go stir crazy
Uh-huh.
because that's a long time just to
That
sit.
is a long time.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I'm
really
not,
is.
you said that, and I'm like, can my bladder last that long?
Oh, there's a bathroom handy. You can jump up and go do what you need to do.
All
But
right. I'm
anyway,
familiar with the storyline, so I can probably catch back up when I
sure.
come back in.
But I told them I have a season pass, so I will see Annie 4 times before it's over with. So they can go ahead. I'm good. It is the first performance, so that would be kind of exciting, but it's all good. But I think if we spend time with people we love, definitely because a lot of times when we eat chocolate, it's not because we're hungry. It's for the pleasure, right?
Yeah, I typically don't try to satisfy hunger with
No,
chocolate. That would be
no.
disastrous.
In fact, I recommend that we nourish ourselves and let the chocolate be the cherry on the top, so to speak, the icing on the cake, if you will.
Yeah, I savor chocolate. I savor chocolate like nobody's
hmm
business. Um, I like getting chocolate chips, and I get sugar-free ones now, but or if I can find some that are really dark, so there's not a lot of sugar,
Mm.
and I will savor a single chip at a time, just really let it melt and make it a production. It's a production bigger than Annie.
There you
It's
go.
it's chocolate, the musical in my mouth.
That's
Should I
cool.
edit that out? I don't know about that. That was a goofy thing to say, but I think people listening can relate to it, right? We get our little bit of chocolate to savor and yeah, make a production out of it.
Well, I do like chocolate. I just think that there's so many other things we can do. For one thing, we can give ourselves some self-love. Sometimes I'm my own worst critic. I think you understand how that works too, because I know you've been there as well. But sometimes we're just not as loving to ourselves as we are to each other, so to speak, or to others in our life that we love dearly. So, self love, it's a good time to think about self love and what we can do to promote that for ourselves.
Yeah. I'm laughing so much because I'm like, I am a really good encourager. A lot of people have told me, "Oh, that's your ministry. You have the gift of encouragement." But I am like a world renowned self critic. So I really relate to that for sure.
What are some things we can do you think, to show ourselves self love?
Well, I mean, we do what the word says. We take every thought captive. We cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of God, right? I've really had to reframe it that way and think to myself, like, I know you get mad at me when I say stuff, or if my husband hears me say anything, if my daughter hears me say anything, and, of course, if my mom does, there is that instant, what are you doing? What are you saying? That's not right. And I've taken it more to that
Because we
spiritual
love
level.
you.
I know. I always tell you, I'm like, well, that's because you love me more. And I appreciate that filter. But I take it to the place with the instruction and the word and knowing what God says about us. I told you before we got on here that on my way to my workshop this morning, I praised myself happy. I was going through, and I don't know if other people do this or not. Maybe I'm telling on myself, but sometimes instead of singing like an actual song that I know, I just start singing different parts of the scripture, whatever the Holy Spirit brings to mind. And this may sound woo-woo-y to some people. It's really not. I mean, God's Spirit is in us, and He speaks to us by His Spirit to our spirit. So you internally, hear something or know something, it comes to mind. And so different scriptures were just coming to mind, and I'm just kind of singing along. And, if you don't know where to start, just start with a hallelujah and, God, you're good. And then I started going through, and before I know it, there were rhymes coming out and stuff. And I'm like, that's really good. And at one point it was so good, the line was funny. And I just started busting out laughing. And by the time I got to work, I was just so happy. And part of what I was doing, if you feel weak in the morning, since the joy of the Lord is your strength. So get into that place of joy. And it says that in His presence is fullness of joy. And so if you want to have that fullness of joy, you got to get into His presence. And we come into His presence with thanksgiving in our hearts and enter His courts with praise. So that's where you start, praise and thanksgiving. And then all of a sudden you're like, what on earth happened to me? And why am I laughing like a loon? But one of the things I was saying this morning, because, it was a week, I had some cynical moments, or maybe that was just yesterday that felt like a week, but I had some cynical moments, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing this game, because I'm the righteousness of God in Christ. I am the head and not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I'm like, I am a child of the King. And just going through and reminding myself of who I am and what I have in Christ. And I'm like, I am not going to do the enemy's job of beating myself up. Just not going to do it. I'm going to cast down those imaginations. I'm going to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And so if anything is in contradiction to God's word about who I am, then I have got to shut that down. If I'm feeling defeated, I have to remind myself I'm more than a conqueror, that I have overwhelming victory in Christ, that's already a done deal. So those are the ways that I combat it. That's the spiritual warfare I went to yesterday, when the enemy comes in and is like, what you're doing with the podcast is stupid. Your YouTube channel is stupid. Nobody's listening. You're stupid. It's stupid. Everything's stupid. I'm like, no, you're stupid. Talk back. And if he's saying something that's wrong, talk back. Don't agree. Don't be like, yeah, you're right. I'm stupid, which I've done. And I know that sounds goofy. And um, this was not prepared in any way, shape, or form. But I think somebody probably needs to hear all of what I just said, because that didn't come out of my head. That came out of my spirit because of what I experienced this morning. And I have learned a lot about this spiritual warfare. And it just makes me mad when the enemy picks on other people, but I've got to stand up for myself more quickly than I do. And I'm learning to do that. But I mean, I will go toe to toe with the enemy for anybody else, but sometimes I just roll over when it comes to myself. But we can't do that. That's showing love to ourselves by just establishing what our spiritual boundaries are and our authority in Christ. And it goes along with my word in force. And I woke up with that just kind of alive in my spirit this morning, that God was even sharing more revelation about what that's going to mean in my life. I'm not going to go into that, would be a whole sermon to go into, but that's what got me off on the right foot this morning, that I'm like, there are some things that I'm enforcing, and these things are in my control. They're not out of my control. And like I said, I just kind of praised myself happy. I'm kind of giddy now, as you can tell.
Well, I believe that you put on a garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. You lifted up your voice to God,
I
prayed in
did.
the spirit, and look what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So what were we talking about?
We're talking about how we can show ourselves self-love.
Yeah, I was kidding, but yeah, that I didn't plan to say any of that. But you can't separate the spiritual from the natural. And, when it comes to our health and wellness journey, if it's not on the foundation of Christ, it's going to be harder. It just is, because there's so much strength and joy and goodness there. And, my help comes from the Lord, right? So, but there are practical things. That's the spiritual side. But there are very practical things uh, that you do when you get discouraged in your journey, and you reset and you prepare. And like I said, you've got Valentine's Day coming up, and there are other things besides food, but we can have the food too. We already know where we're going to lunch on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. We do. It's going to be good.
It is. I'm going to pre-track it. That's one of my favorite strategies, to make sure that I can work in chocolate and everything else that I want to have, and the things that I need. So,
Well, back to what we were talking about with spending time together, and it goes along with all the things you said about spending time with the Lord. Connection's important. And I think sometimes when it comes to things like chocolate, we as women use chocolate to try to fill some other void in our life. We could. Just sweets in general, I guess. Really, any food, if you've got this emotional tie into it, right? So, connection's important. I know sometimes there's people who are lonely. You can be lonely and have somebody else living in the house with you, right?
that's
So,
true.
connection is important, and that's a way to show yourself self-love, is to find someone to connect with. You know be nice if everybody had a friendship like you and I do. We know that not everyone does, but I think sometimes we don't seek people out, and I think it's good. Make yourself friendly, right?
Right?
Want to make a friend, be a friend. And there's, I love, and I know everybody has different experiences at church, but a lot of my really good friends in my life are people at church. There's all kinds of, so if somebody's listening and they aren't connected to a church, you can go there and literally make some really strong connections. People that'll pray for you, being a part of a support group, that's showing love to yourself, like coming to your workshop or coming to the group I do on Monday nights at church. We support one another. So definitely we want to have good relationships with people. We don't want to turn to food to satisfy loneliness or anything, companionship, nothing like that. Just get a good friend to share the chocolate with.
Yeah, that can definitely help. And never, one of the things I did early on when I was moving out of binge eating, once I kind of knew that it was like, this is it, I'm not doing this anymore. One of the rules I set for myself was if I was going to, like, if I had a draw for the foods that kind of knocked over that domino, that I wouldn't do it by myself, because that's one of the hallmarks of binge eating is you do it in secret. You know, those things that you do in secret, bring them into light, and they don't have as much power over you. So, you know, if you want to have a lot of chocolate, you know, at least have somebody there with you sharing the chocolate. It will slow you down. It will, um, hopefully the other person will help just kind of fill you up from that spirit standpoint and encourage you. But when you're interacting with somebody else, you're more likely to slow down. I've often noted that no matter where we were in our journey, there were times that we would be eating something that if I was eating it by myself at home, I would never be satisfied. But because we were sitting and enjoying it and having conversation, that there's, I don't know, it's almost like putting spiritual sauce on top or something, that it makes I remember one time it was like raw carrots, and I don't remember what we were having, but I mean it was a rabbit food kind of buffet, because it was when we were trying to be really really tight on our calories and everything. And I can remember I commented, we were at the church, at your church in the family center, and I think we had snow peas and carrots, and I had made some sort of dip out of fat-free plain Greek yogurt. And we were just sitting there. We were so thankful, and we were just oohing and ahhing. Oh, these are the best baby carrots ever. Oh, these snow peas are so sweet. And I don't know. There's just something about, you know, truly having fellowship over food, and it doesn't have to be cupcakes for it to be amazing. It doesn't have to be, um, you know, donuts or pizza. It can be carrots and apple slices and grapes, and you can just be nourished in body and in spirit, um, from simpler things.
I agree. I know. I remember that occasion. Yeah, I remember it clearly. But you're so right. It's more than just the food, and I don't know. It's so much more satisfying when you get to share it with someone you love. So
Hmm.
again, you know, if somebody lives alone, or maybe it's a widow or a widower, seek people out. You know, there's so many groups you can be a part of. I mean, it's Ursula, right, that plays pickleball all the time
Uh-huh.
and just loves that, and so that brings her joy. She's showing herself self-love by getting involved with that
Yeah.
group of people and just going and having a good time. I bet they cut up and laugh. And
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, God did not create us to be alone, not
Nope. He did not.
at all.
Yeah. And I think societally, I mean, there are so many divisions, I think, in so many different ways. And even walking through the grocery store, people don't necessarily make eye contact. They don't smile at you. It's like they're almost afraid of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if you reach out, most of the time people will respond
Mm-hmm.
positively. There are a few that won't, but we can't care about that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I talked to the little cashier that checked me out at Reese's today. She had pink hair, and I told her it was really cute. And I remember when my daughter had green hair and how fun it is to just be able to play with it and have different colors and, you know, not take it too seriously. And I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people judge her for having, you know, a certain color hair, but if we can show kindness and, you know, I don't know, that whole golden rule thing, do us do unto others, you know, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And like you said, show yourself friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, there are some jerks out there, but most of the time you'll get some sort of reciprocity, because we do
Mm-hmm.
need that connection. And even though food is a wonderful friend, and is always there for you, it doesn't always treat you right.
Mm-mm. No, not at all. You're making me think of something that happened today in Quick Trip. We stopped and got a beverage, and I was walking out of the store and, talking about people looking down or away, not making eye contact. I mean, you and I both often will say hello to someone first because we find ourselves on walking trails together and in stores sometimes and that sort of thing. But as I was leaving Quick Trip, I know it was a father son. I know it was. They looked so much alike, and they were both super tall, like basketball players. But they were in deep conversation, and the dad paused and looked me in the eye and said hi to me like he knew me. I feel sure he did not. I would remember these guys. I don't know them. But then his son said hi, and they were so friendly. And I don't know. It just makes you feel happy. And so, we can always be that friendly one. Spread a little joy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you feel good too,
It
giving
does.
back the love to yourself.
Yeah, it's nourishment. One of the reasons we reach for chocolate or whatever type of food it is for a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And when we are kind, when we show kindness to somebody else and they reflect that back to us, that gives us that dopamine hit.
Mhm.
And human interactions do that a lot. So there are definitely other ways that we can get that relief. And that's a word that I've kind of been focusing on, realizing is maybe the emotional driver for my eating, because I'm always holding on tight to the reins. I'm always tracking everything. I'm always weighing everything. I'm always in a calorie deficit. I'm always trying this or that. And sometimes you just get really, really weary in that, and you need a relief valve. And food is one of the quickest and easiest ways to get that. And so it's not even comfort, it's just relief because it changes how you feel in the moment. And even if it doesn't comfort you, it changes what your current emotional status is because of that dopamine hit. And that, I think, is why I tend to reach for food. I want some sort of change in that emotional status, and it brings momentary emotional regulation, I guess. And so that's where I've been really focusing my attention to change. What do I reach for in those moments where I'm just, I need something to change in me? Well, go to that place of praise. Because sometimes even reaching out to somebody else isn't necessarily going to be the answer. Sometimes we need to reach out to him because he's the only one that's going to get her crazy in that moment.
He's
Or
number one.
even, you resonate with my crazy, but there are times that you're like, God, you're going to have to help her because I can't, right? There are times that God is the only one that can kind of help soothe those things. And it is through that way that he designed for us to fellowship with him. And that's through praise and thanksgiving. And that just ushers us right into his presence.
I think sometimes we turn to food, chocolate being one of the most popular items to grab when you're feeling really stressed out. It kind of goes along with what we've talked about, but yet we've talked more about being lonely. And of course, you talked about being kind of feeling low and turning to the Lord and, praising Him, and all of a sudden you're giddy because the joy of the Lord is our strength. Uh, but, if you're having a stressful day, and, for me, sometimes at school, towards the end of the day, and there's all these sweet snacks available, I have to be careful that I'm not reaching for stress relief. So, one way we can show love to ourselves is to find other ways to relieve the stress. And there's so
Hmm.
many other things we can do besides putting food in our mouth. We try to get food to do so many things for us besides just nourish our body. And we know we can enjoy it. It can be pleasurable because we're to receive it with thanksgiving and
Hmm.
enjoy it. God gave us taste buds, but I think we just have to be careful that we don't think that it's a fix all, it's a cure all. It's
Hmm.
make everything better, because it's not. It can make everything worse if you approach it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Been
Yeah,
there.
I'm familiar with that. But yeah, It's about the heart condition, the condition of the heart. It's not necessarily about the food. It's where are you emotionally when you're eating certain foods? How are you interacting? Are you choosing the food, or is the food choosing you?
Mm-hmm.
And if you allow the food to choose you because you have a craving or um, the emotional dysregulation, and you try to reach for the food to fix that, then that's when there's potentially a problem. If you reach for the food because you planned for it and it works in with your day and you've nourished your body with things, and you just want to have chocolate or pizza or whatever it is, a cookie or two cookies or three, even the quantity doesn't matter. It's how are you in that moment? Can you eat it peacefully? Are you in a place, you and I talk about this a lot, that, Paul said, whatever you do, whether you eat or drink, do it as unto the Lord. And are you doing it unto the Lord? Can you say honestly, okay, I'm eating in a way that is God pleasing at the moment? And if you can say yes, then eat in faith and enjoy and give thanks for it. But if you know that there's something else going on, then you might need to shift. You might need to try something different. And I think that's one of the best ways that we can love ourselves
Mm-hmm.
is to, you know, receive God's love in that moment, because he can provide comfort that chocolate can't. I mean, I'm just going to say it. God is better than chocolate. He
Absolutely.
just is. And, he has good things for us. And I might need to watch this over and over again. This might be one of those podcasts that I'm like, okay, if you're hungry, go eat your words. And I'll have to listen to myself, because you and I have joked, anybody who has been with us and has listened to our different podcasts, I think we show ourselves as very, very human, because going back 3.5 years, I mean, it'll be 4 years this summer since we started this podcast. And there are podcasts where it's like today, where I just feel like I am in control. There's peace in this journey. And then there are podcasts where I'm having a hard time even doing it with you, because I feel so heavy, because the journey is so difficult that day. But I can always move myself into the place that I'm in now if I will do what I did this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes life is heavier. And so you have to spend little bit more time putting on the garment of praise to get off the garment of heavy, that spirit of heaviness. It takes more praise, but God's principles always work. And chocolate doesn't always work. Pizza doesn't always work. Cupcakes don't always work. Whatever it is that's your thing, from a food standpoint, that is not always going to work to bring the relief. But when we press in to God, when we apply the word, that is always going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you have to work it a little bit more than what you do,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes it's a sacrifice of praise. And you got to keep pressing in, and then you have that moment of breakthrough.
When we were talking just a few moments ago, a quote came to me that I've used so many times before to myself and in groups. I'm sure you've heard it. It says, if hunger is not the problem, then food is not the answer. And that definitely goes with what we're talking about, because we do try to use food for so many other things. But if you're not really hungry, it's food's not going to take care of it. If it's stress and I'm eating because I'm stressed, it's not going to make the stress. I mean, it might for a moment give me a little escape or a little relief, as the words you used, but only Jesus will truly satisfy. Sometimes Jesus might want us to go on a prayer walk,
Mm-hmm.
out in the fresh air. That's a way to get some endorphins going and move our body. And I can't wait to be able to get out and do that again. I can get rid of my cute little boot I'm wearing.
Your cute boot.
Yeah, but it feels so good to go for a walk and talk to the Lord. That's a 2 for 1, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
good for
and
what
being in
else
the sunlight, Yeah, light
Yes.
is very healing for us. So being out in the sunshine can really, really
Yeah.
benefit us.
And one way we can show some self-love to ourselves is to go to bed 30 minutes earlier. We can all use more rest, or I mean, there might be someone out there that sleeps too much, but my mom would probably tell him you never sleep too much. She was quite the sleeper, if you'll recall.
I do recall she loved her sleep.
That's why I would tell her, it's why you're so beautiful, Mom. You get so much beauty rest. But getting plenty of sleep, and of course, we know when we nourish ourselves, stay hydrated, those are also ways that we can show ourselves some self love. And I haven't done it so much lately, but there was a time I was really into treating myself to something that was not like food it had to be something that didn't have calories in it, just because sometimes it feels good to treat ourselves, but trying to get away from food as a reward.
Hmm.
That there's other things that, if you see, something that you've been wanting, and I know sometimes money's a factor. We can't always just, you know, go buy everything that we want. So I'm not suggesting that we, you know, spend so much on ourselves that we can't pay our bills or anything silly like that. But, do something nice for yourself. It doesn't always have to be, well, I'm going to go get a large pizza because I've been good and I've worked hard and I deserve this. There's other ways to treat yourself. I know some people enjoy a bubble bath. That's not really something I've ever been into, but to go pick out something new to wear, I would love that. And of course, I know sometimes I'll say, well, when I get to a certain size, that's ridiculous. Jesus is going to come back. Right? Just get it and enjoy it. And then when it gets to be too big, then just get something else. But you know the point I'm making.
Hmm.
Giving yourself a little pick me up every now and then. What's wrong with that? If you can afford it, it doesn't have to cost a lot or anything. But I think we just need to make sure we're not letting the chocolate be the be all, the do all, the fix all.
Right. So, when we were talking about what to talk about today, one of the things that you mentioned was the post that I made in my Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
So, I figured I would bring that up because it asked a couple of questions that we thought, well, that might be good to kind of bring up and incorporate in what we're talking about. Because I mean, it's February, it's Valentine's Day, it's the month of love. We think of love in February. So of course I love it because of, my love of red. So there's red everywhere that makes me happy. And my question, what I posted, and I think I figured out editing enough that I can put it up on the screen, but I will read it off of my phone for right now. If someone came to live with you, what would they see that you love? What habits would be obvious? And if they lived like you, would their life change for the better or for the worse? And based on the answers to these questions, what do you want to change in your life? And I think kind of at the base of this is, what do you need to change to be able to love your health and wellness journey, this weight loss journey, because it can be tormenting at times. And I know some people listening might be like, well, that's a really harsh word. But I think there are a lot of women like us who would say that it's tormenting, that we have suffered in this journey. And in those times when it's hard, we need to kind of have a fallback to, what can I do to love this journey more? And part of that is, how can I love myself better in the journey? But what would reflect to somebody else that love, that, I love feeling healthy or being healthy? And what actions are we taking? What are the things that we are doing? What does our home show? For me, you walk in and obviously you see red and black and white everywhere. There is no question for anybody ever what my favorite color is. And that is throughout my house. You will see that unless it's a particular, like it kind of goes in cycles. So I am not in love with constant housekeeping. That is that is a weakness of mine. I love doing other things, but you will see that I have a rebounder in the middle of my living room. I have dumbbells everywhere. I have kettlebells. So clearly, that is something that is important to me that I feel like is beneficial for my weight loss and wellness journey, for my overall health and well being. And I keep it in front of my face, I keep it in front of my eyes all the time so that I am reminded at least once a day, go pick up something heavy, move it at least 10 to 12 times in the same way, and get some sort of weight training in. People will see that and know, okay, I love being strong. I mean, that's why we started this podcast, because of your goal for, like, when you were facing your 60th birthday. I'll let you talk about that.
Well, I just adopted a motto of finish strong. And I just felt like I was, some people call it the fourth quarter of life, but I'd like to live so long that I'm not quite in the fourth quarter yet, but the Lord's, the Lord's will. But yeah, I just wanted to finish well, to finish strong, to uh, be focused on the things that are most important, where maybe in the past I had neglected some of those things. So, it's just, I guess I was at a point in my life where I realized I'm really getting older here. I'm getting to a time, it's like now or never kind of thing. If you walked in my house, some of the things you would see that would help you to see that I'm focused on health and wellness. One thing, because I think spiritual health is so important, which we've already talked about a lot today, but you would see books and the Bible and things that pertain to the Word of God. Dale and I have a devotional we're doing together. So if you were to move in with us every morning, you would hear the Word, a passage out of the Bible, and a devotional that we share together. And then we always have morning prayer together. And so you would see how we want to set the tone for the day, starting with our spiritual health. You would see that I have a well-stocked kitchen. I just did grocery pickup today, so I have the things on hand that I need to nourish my body for the rest of the weekend and into next week. And usually we do takeout on Sundays, and I decided that we would do a home-cooked meal tomorrow. So I have a lot of food on hand, and I'm going to feed the family tomorrow.
What are we having?
We're going to have lasagna,
Oh,
and we're going to
nice.
yeah, and some Caesar salad and some bread and more of an Italian meal. So lots of good things to put together some great lunches, and hopefully by Monday morning I'll have some things prepped. I know you're so good at batch cooking, and I love that. But I've got rotisserie chicken and some things that are going to make it easy for me to put some healthy meals together. And we do have a gym where we can go and lift weights and do the rebounder, thanks to you, and we can do just some other. There's a few things down there, a vibration plate and some stretchy bands. There's things down there that we can use to get a good workout in. And so that says I'm into fitness, right? Got to get down there and use them though, so that they're beneficial. Can't just let them exist. And I have our home set up in a way that I think that at night when we come into our bedroom, it's looks comfortable and inviting and peaceful. And we always end our day with prayer. Um, I'm not the most organized person in the world, but I do enjoy having things in order. And so I try to stay on top of that. Our home was remodeled a while back, as you know, and I've been bad in the past about bringing things in and just kind of setting them down and getting to them later as far as unpacking, not like groceries, especially like perishables. That would be foolish of me. But I made a promise to myself that I was going to put things in their proper place and kind of goes with your enforce word. I've enforced that with myself, and it's brought me great peace and joy. And, there are times when I'm like, yeah, I get to that later. And then I'll say, you better not, because it can really stack up and
Mhm.
accumulate, if you will. So I've tried to stay on top of that, and I've done well with it. But I really think that our home has many things. We have bedtime prayer together. I think that our home would show anyone that came to visit, or especially to live with us, that this is a place where we prioritize health and wellness, spiritual health, physical health, mental health, good sleep. Yeah, it all works together.
Mhm.
And you've been here before. You're always welcome.
Well, I have been a couple times so that
Yeah.
we could get off earlier in the morning to go on our hiking expeditions. So, yeah. And right now, you're having to adjust. We talked about this on the last podcast, but having to adjust with your foot. You're really having to show yourself some love by showing some restraint. Um, that you're like, okay, I can't walk a mile every day. That's not going to be helpful to me. So sometimes it's being okay with, we talked about being flexible last week. Sometimes we have to be like, you know what? This is just entirely the wrong approach to this. I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to do this, but I need to lay this down for a little while because it's not helpful. You're in a season where you need to have some rest and recovery so that then you can have redemption on the trail.
Yes, yes. So I guess we could say listening to your body is a
Hmm.
way to give yourself some self love. And I did try to do a 1 mile a day challenge in a boot, which wasn't smart. I only did it one day. And then I felt some different twinges of pain, and it felt sore and tender. It felt like I kind of went the other direction a little bit. And I just felt like, I better not do that. That's not wise. So I want to heal now so I can hike later, because I'm afraid that if I push it too much now, it's going to be harmful in the long term. So I've got to use wisdom, and we know where that comes from. And God gives us good sense. He'll give us wisdom. You just got to listen and then act accordingly. So I think I said this last week. My step goal right now, for me, if I can do 3,000 steps a day, I feel accomplished, because that means I moved around the house, and I've done some 10-minute house walks, just because I figure if I move continuously for 10 minutes, because it's level in the house, obviously. So that's good,
I
right?
think so.
Well, our country road was not. And that's where I did that mile, where I decided to reassess and not do that again. So, yeah, this too shall pass. But like I said, I want to heal now because I do want to hike later, Lord willing. I pray He is.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's willing.
Yeah.
He knows how much you love it.
Yes, He does. And it's His creation. And I know we've got to love the Creator more than the creation, but I believe He gave us beautiful creation to enjoy in His presence as we praise and worship Him at the same time. Hopefully, I'll be ready in April to do, well, we had planned a half marathon, but there's also a 5 mile event and there's a 5K event. And so hopefully my goal is to be able to do one of those.
Well,
So
we will keep praying. You'll keep resting, and you'll keep healing, and it'll be good, whatever happens,
yeah,
and uh, we'll go regardless.
yeah. If
So,
I'm just cheering you on, it'll be fine. I'll be loud and proud of you.
yeah, I already told you I'm not doing any distance you're not doing, um, but yeah, it's still going to be our annual thing, and so sometimes one of the ways you love yourself is to adjust your expectations
That's
and be okay with all right, this is where I am right now. We have to do that all the time with,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of weight we lose, or um, even with what we were talking about last week. When times are hard, it can make this journey even harder. So we can we can love ourselves by giving ourselves the grace to not have to go 100%
Mm-hmm.
all of the time. And I think rest is a huge part of taking care of ourselves and recovery. I've always been really hard on myself in this journey, and I think I've never allowed myself to truly recover from some of the old bad mindsets
Mm-hmm.
and uh, just so many of the things from the past that we have been taught, and we've tried to do what all the experts tell us to do, and I think we've been faithful in it, but some of those things have not been helpful and actually made the journey harder. And we think, well, in my 20s, I was able to do it like this. So why is it still not happening like this? It's like, well, the conditions have completely and totally changed. And there's a lot that we have to undo. And we can love ourselves enough to give it, the opportunity to do that, to be patient with ourselves, to just kind of step back and go, you know what? I was told a lot of information that really wasn't the best information. I never should have only been eating 800 to 1,000 calories per day. That was harmful. That created some really bad relationship data points with food. It created fear. So we can love ourselves by maybe looking at some of those things to fix our relationship with food, to approach it differently, to have a healthy relationship with food so that we can actually be healthy and live in a healthy way. And it's interesting because every time I think I have gotten over a hurdle with that, and I'm like, oh, I've got it figured out, then something else will come up, and I'll be like, how broken and messed up am I in this journey? But it is a journey, and it's a healing process. And that makes me think of your word for the year and how that applies to what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely redeem. Yeah, redeem the moment. And no matter how it's looking, you can redeem this moment.
Yeah. And
And
we
whatever
act like
it is.
if you make one choice that doesn't support your goals, we're like, oh, we've blown it. But we can redeem the moment. And I talk about how I have over 43 years invested in this journey. And most of the time, I probably refer to it as a war more than a journey. But that time can be redeemed. Just because that's the history of things, it doesn't mean it has to be the future of it. And I can't spend my time looking back and wishing things were different. I just need to look at right now and decide, what can I change in this moment? What can I do today? Don't borrow trouble from tomorrow either. You can plan, but don't take on the cares of tomorrow. Just do what you can do today. Live today in as healthy a way as you can with whatever energy and strength and capacity you have today. And then if tomorrow you don't have quite as much energy, strength, or capacity, just give what you've got for that day. But we know it's always going to change, right?
That's
Because
true.
just like there's always more, there's always change.
Mm-hmm.
If it's hard right now, it's not always going to be hard. If it's easy right now, it's not always going to be easy. Life always changes. Our circumstances always change.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to change ourselves in it the best that we can. And like I said, love yourself in the journey with something besides just food,
Mm-hmm.
chocolate, or whatever other kind of food.
Yeah. And I think we're showing our family love when we set a good example.
Yeah, I am so thankful that God protected my kids from the insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I just take things to the next level. So I'm glad that they didn't get caught up in that, and they do have a good relationship with food. I actually learned from them. I look at my daughter, especially the the wisdom that she has, not just with food, but life and the word. And I'm like, okay, you are way farther along at 20 than I ever thought about being. And I
Mhm.
thank God for that.
Yeah.
And it is a good thing. And my son, the things that comes out, that come out of his mouth, the way that he is able to cook, and neither of my kids just always eat fast food or stuff like that. That'd be easy to do at their age.
Mhm.
The way that I ate in my early 20s, I probably went months without a fruit or a vegetable. Um, Pizza was the closest thing to a vegetable that I got, and maybe a strawberry milkshake for fruit. I don't know, but uh, but yeah, to see that God has been faithful, because I prayed over them. I'm like, God, please protect them from having this stuff, and where my wrong mindsets or
Mhm.
my wrong examples don't rub off on them. And He's been very, very gracious and merciful in that. And it's fun to get to learn from the kids. And I have learned to have humility in that. And my daughter, especially, between you and Zoe, you guys really helped me get over the self-critical um, gifting that I have.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's so important to have good people in our lives. And I pray that everybody that's listening, if you don't, that God will bring people into your life. And like like you said, Bob, it get to where people are. If you're lonely, get to where people are. Put yourself out there and give God an opportunity to connect you with
Mhm.
people. Go to a Weight Watchers meeting. Go to Overeaters Anonymous. Something.
Mhm.
If you are in a room full of people who are fighting the same battle that you are, you're going to bond over that. You'll find your people. So.
Yeah. And I think sometimes in this day and age, and I know we can all be guilty of this, spending too much time on social media. People are looking at platforms like Facebook to try to connect, and not saying that's all bad, because you and I both do things on Facebook with our groups, and um, do some things on TikTok, rarely, but occasionally. But I don't know, sometimes I think some of that kind of stuff has replaced true connection, because it's easy for someone to curl up in a chair and just do the scrolling thing. And not saying you couldn't connect, you could. You can message someone from there, but I don't know. I love the what you talked about. Being with some like-minded people and sharing some joy and sharing some compassion for one another, realizing that you're so like-minded and can commiserate with each other. And I don't know, God puts people in our lives. We just got to be open to it.
Hmm. Well, I don't know that I have anything else to add to the conversation. I mean, that I could talk endlessly about just about anything, but uh, we don't want to be too tedious each week. But I think that I talked way too much today, so I want to give you the final word. I'm going to let you close us out. I'm going to let you share any final thoughts or words of wisdom, and I'm gonna sit here, and I'm gonna drink my Dr Pepper Zero. We are not sponsored by them, but um, I I feel like they're. I mean, look, it matches my color scheme, but. Um, share some final words of wisdom, or whatever else might be on your heart before we wrap things up. And also, before I turn it over to you, I have a hard time stopping today. Um, if anybody wants to connect, like in the groups, I have a group on Facebook. Dana has a group on Facebook. We will vet you, but like-minded people are welcome. It is a private group where we support each other and encourage each other in the journey. So I'll put links in the description for anybody who's interested. And if you want to comment, drop us a comment. Let us know what you do to show yourself some love, with something besides chocolate. So, all right, take it away, Bob.
Well, I think in closing, I would just like to say that It's important we show ourselves love. And it tells us in the Bible that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And Satan would like for all of us to believe otherwise. But we're made in his image, and we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We should love ourselves because God created us in his image. And there's no greater love than the love that Jesus Christ has for us. And one of my favorite verses, probably most of us have it memorized and have known it since we were small children, but John 3:16 just simply says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life." And that's true love. He laid down his life for us. And if anyone's listening that doesn't know Jesus as their personal Lord and Savior, then please let us talk to you. Let us help you, or find someone that you can talk to. You don't have to be in a church to give your heart to the Lord to be saved. You just have to believe. And you can believe in your car driving down the road. But accept Christ. He's true love. He's what it's all about. And when we know Jesus and he lives within us, it is easier to love ourselves because we're full of his love, and that love then gets shared with not only ourselves but with others. And love is good. So happy Valentine's Day, and share some love, right?